MLK Day, and it's great. A little bit too close for Christmas. We just had a great big break. Maybe we could have done this on the anniversary of one of his speeches, but we like Martin Luther King. I mean, look at this beautiful statement. Look at some of the things he said. This is perhaps my favorite. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. How beautiful and how quaint and how square and how not hip, how unwoke. Have you noticed that the left, they don't talk about Martin Luther King all that much these days. He is not fashionable anymore. No way. He doesn't get it because he dreamt of a world without race. All they can think of, the left, is a world where that's all anybody sees is race. Hey, you'll notice I had to read this quote. Wouldn't it be nice if I could play you the speech, right? A little portion of it from the Lincoln Memorial. Isn't that American property? No, it's actually not. It's the property of the King family, apparently. They partnered with some group, and they are notoriously greedy about charging money to hear that speech. Everybody knows it, by the way. Go ahead and put it up on the screen if you don't mind. It is no secret that the estate of Martin Luther King Jr. have a long and unfortunate history of trying to lock up profit from the use of his stirring words and speeches. What a shame. But MLK, he's still A-OK. I mean, I like him. And here's something else I like about him. He was tormented by the FBI, the same FBI that went after Donald Trump. Yeah, certain people are gone, but you know what? They still call it the J. Edgar Hoover building. That tells you something about the FBI. We're changing the name of military bases, yet J. Edgar Hoover is still on the FBI headquarters. J. Edgar Hoover, who tried to induce Martin Luther King to commit suicide. Oh, yes, it's part of their very checkered history. They sent a nasty letter to Martin Luther King detailing all of his indiscretions and urging him to jump out of a window. The FBI, I don't think, has ever made amends for this. They're still up to corrupt acts. Oh, by the way, what they did to Trump. More on that later in the week, actually. But back to Martin Luther King, the good stuff. And this is good. And it'll give you an idea, again, why the left doesn't really have much use for him anymore.
I don't think of love as, in this context, as emotional bosh. I don't think of it as a weak force. But I think of love as something strong and that organizes itself into powerful direct action.
Love, one of the strongest forces in the world, right? Amazing! Not so much. They put him up against Malcolm X. Ooh, this guy. One ugly dude on the inside. Listen.
The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King, subsidizes Reverend Martin Luther King, so that Reverend Martin Luther King can continue to teach the Negroes to be defenseless. That's what you mean by nonviolent. The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to give Negroes a chance to sit in a segregated restaurant beside the same white man who had brutalized them for 400 years. The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to get Negroes to forgive the people who have brutalized them for 400 years by lulling them to sleep and making them forgetting what those whites have done to them. But the masses of black people in America today don't go for what Martin Luther King is putting down.
So which philosophy has withstood the test of time? I mean, really, who's in? Who's discussed more today? Who won that contest? Malcolm X, actually. So let's go to Barack Obama. Guy's written about 15 books about himself. I went to some of those books today. You know who he writes about a lot and totally ignores? Malcolm X. Gets 17 references in his famous and first memoir. And there's just one reference to Martin Luther King. And I think it was he was driving up Martin Luther King Boulevard. That toxic stuff that you just heard from Malcolm X really made an impact on Barack Obama. And this part of Martin Luther King, nobody seems to have any use for anymore, but I certainly do.
I heard the voice of Jesus saying, still to fight on. He promised never to leave me, never to leave me alone. No, never alone. No, never alone. promised never to leave me. Never to leave me alone. I'm going on in believing in him. You better know him and know his name. And know how to call his name. Don't be a fool. Recognize your dependence on God.
Wow. He's talking about Jesus, talking about his need for him. I don't hear that from Reverend Al Sharpton, do you? Or from Raphael Warnock, who apparently has the same job, the same church. Martin Luther King was a hero. And I wonder what he would think of our current president.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Valen. Happy birthday to you. Well,
Happy, who, what? This is at an MLK celebration today in Washington, D.C., and Joe just smiled. Who was this birthday wish to again?
happy birthday, dear Valen.
I think he was wishing happy birthday to Martin Luther King, who would have been in his late 80s or early 90s at this point. Wow. What would he make of this guy? What do we make of him? He's a race-baiting fool. Oh, boy, pandering, that's what he does. It's what he's always done. It's the only life he knows, and now he's racialized it considerably.
You know, if you build, in the last 25 years, if you build a housing development on one side of an interstate highway, and you built the same one on the opposite side, and one is predominantly black and the other is predominantly white, guess what? The value of the exact same home, built by the exact same builder, is more valuable on the white side of that highway than on the black side. That's a fact.
Is it a fact, Joe, huh? Is it really that simple, huh? What? This is a lack of leadership. This is pandering. Joe could have talked about crime rates, which are, unfortunately, but it's very real. They happen to be higher in communities of color than in communities that are predominantly white. I don't know why, but it's true. You can look it up. 911 calls, that might have a little bit something to do with the home values, but no. Just make it simple and just condescend and be the phony politician that you are.
If you live in one of those neighborhoods and you have the same exact car I have in the other neighborhood, you pay more for your insurance than that side. No basis for it, none at all, other than you're black and I'm white.
It's kind of weird the way he said the word black. What? This is an odd fellow speaking in a very strange way. And he's done it all of his life. It is amazing that he's president. And he gets it really wrong when he starts talking about race, right? Who remembers this with how enamored he was with a young senator from Illinois?
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African-American who was articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Yeah, that's a storybook, man. In Joe's weird world, he's never seen a black man who was clean and nice and all those things. Very, very strange guy. Anyway, back to the political chores at hand. Hand out the money.
We're launching a $1 billion pilot project funded by my bipartisan infrastructure law. We've delivered nearly $6 billion in funding to HBCUs to invest in next generation of black leaders. That's a record, and that's a fact. And the share of those dollars are going to go to small business and disadvantaged businesses, including black and brown-owned businesses. That's going to mean an additional $100 billion going into the creation of these small businesses. $100 billion.
He's got this Daddy Warbucks thing going, right? Like somehow it's his money. It's our money. Easy there, big shot. Anyway, this is all part of a new craze that somehow our infrastructure is racist. Have you heard about this one? That this bridge, this beautiful bridge, is somehow racist. This bridge actually is a real bridge. It exists today. And they say, oh, it's so low to cut off buses so poor people can't get to the beach. Now, it's a total crock, okay? It was popularized, however, in this book, The Power Broker by Robert Moses. There's some good things in this book, but like any book, it's not perfect, and they totally got that part wrong. But reporters love this book. At least they love to say they read it because it's 1,000 pages, and I don't know if anybody's actually read the entire thing, but every time you see somebody on the fake news, they always have this book behind them. And, you know, it's a virtue signal. It's like, I get it. And yes, those bridges are racist. And if I ever meet Pete Buttigieg, we can talk about the racist infrastructure because we both claim to have read the same book.
I'm still surprised that some people were surprised when I pointed to the fact that if a highway was built for the purpose of dividing a white and a black neighborhood, or if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or there would have been, in New York was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
Yeah, obviously this bridge is racist, right? Can I see that pretty bridge again? Built in 1927 by Robert Moses. Robert Caro wrote the book. Guess how many black and Hispanic people lived in New York City? About the same number that lived in the state of Maine. Communities of color did not really expand and grow in New York City until after World War II. They're about to spend trillions and trillions of dollars correcting so-called racism in the infrastructure that doesn't exist. And we know how it goes when you start throwing around trillions and trillions of dollars targeted at communities of color. Take a look at this. In the 1960s, 1 out of every 4 children, black children, born into single-parent households. Several $1 trillion later spent on social programs. Where are we? 64%. Some studies show that that's closer to 75%. I wonder what Martin Luther King would make of this all. You know, I think actually we'd owe him, as a culture, a bit of an apology. Did you watch television this weekend apart from football? Who remembers something called TLC, the Learning Channel? The Learning Channel. What could be wrong with the Learning Channel? You learned about so much. You could learn about the Revolutionary War.
Tomorrow night on Real History, the fight for freedom continues.
They knock down all the bridges. They make the British go at a snail's pace.
The Revolutionary War, tomorrow at 9 on TLC.
Wow, I would watch that. What was on this weekend on TLC? The Learning Channel. They don't call it the Learning Channel anymore. They just call it TLC. This horror show. Take a look.
Ladies, where's all the men at?
I'm ready to connect with somebody who doesn't really care how old I am.
I'm just looking to have fun.
Here we go.
What the hell? It just got real.
It is obscene, perverse, disgusting, and oh, the crazy twist. Some of those young men were the sons of the women. What would Martin Luther King think of what we've become? We could use another one of him real bad.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. Your retirement funds are being threatened with even more losses from record inflation, recession, and skyrocketing interest rates. Fortunately, the highly trained specialists at American Hartford Gold can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. If you call them right now as a special offer, they will give you a free gold coin on your first qualifying order, so don't wait. Call 866-935-4309. That's 866-935-4309, or text Newsmax to 65532. That's Newsmax to 65532.